Welcome to our discussion on the mid-level significant weather prognostic charts. So we'll start out giving an overview of the chart. This chart gives you, significant weather at mid-altitudes, and what they mean by mid-altitudes is anywhere from 10,000 to 45,000 feet. This chart is usually produced for the North Atlantic, and that's the only place I've seen it generated. They don't generate it over the 48 contiguous United States. So basically, it's a forecast, so it gives you a picture of weather conditions at some time in the future. As I mentioned, it covers the North Atlantic, as well as the Canadian Maritime Provinces, and it goes into Western Europe. As I said, 10,000 to 45,000 feet. It comes out 4 times a day. It's a 24-hour forecast issued by the Aviation Weather Center. At least that's where you can get it, but actually it's generated by the World Area Forecast Center, which is located in Washington. So what does this chart look like? This chart has a ton of weather on it. It covers thunderstorms, fronts, jets, cloud cover, icing, turbulence, radioactive material, volcanic eruptions, icing, you name it, it's got it. Let's take a look at some of these items. So first off, thunderstorms. Of course, thunderstorms that are covering a large area, they don't look at isolated or scattered thunderstorms. You'll see the CB abbreviation to indicate thunderstorms, and then they give you the coverage, bases, and tops. Here's the coverage. They use isolated, occasional, frequent, and also embedded to mean, embedded means the cumulonimbus are hidden by clouds or dust or other things. But isolated, occasional, and frequent is the coverage. This is how they depict it. They use a red scallop line to outline the area of thunderstorms. And then they'll use a box to tell you information about those thunderstorms. The first one shows you that it's isolated, embedded cumulonimbus. When you see the altitudes, the bottom is the lower, the bases, and the tops are indicated. Whenever you see XXX, that indicates it's lower than the prog chart. This chart goes down to 10,000 feet, so the bases start someplace below 10,000 feet. Goes up to whatever the tops are. The first one, it's 45,000 feet. The middle one, it's 36, and the bottom one, it's 33. Also, they'll show you fronts. These are the surface location of fronts and their movement, direction and movement. Jet streams are also shown on this chart. What they plot is the axis of the jet stream. Axis is the line that connects the winds, the strongest winds, anywhere in the atmosphere above a given location. And to be plotted on this chart, the winds have to be greater than 80 knots. If it's not greater than 80 knots, then they won't put the jet stream. They show the winds using a standard barbs. The flags, full flags are 50 knots, and one little line pendant is 10 knots, so you can add those up and figure out the wind speed. Also below that, they give the altitude of the jet axis, and they do that in hundreds of feet MSL. When you see two lines, as you see in this example, those lines indicate a change in the wind speed and of more than 20 knots. Another thing that you'll see is 2 altitudes below the main altitude of the jet, and that indicates the depth of the jet when the jet is greater than 80 knots. If it's stronger, actually if it's stronger than 120, then they'll show you where it increases greater than 80 knots and then where it decreases. Now, I know that sounds kind of complicated, but looking at this example, it shows that as you go up through the atmosphere, the first place where the jet stream increased to more than 80 knots was 21,000 feet. And then it was at its strongest at 29,000 feet. There you see 120 knots. And then as you go up the jet stream decreases and finally decreases below 80 knots at 34,000 feet. They also show you the tropopause. Tropopause is important for transport jet aircraft. That's where typically you get your best performance of the jet aircraft. Above it, performance decreases dramatically. So what they do is they show you in a box the altitude of the tropopause, and then they'll also show you local regions where it's higher or lower with the pentagons with the H's and the L's. And then of course they'll show tropical storms or hurricanes, and they'll give you the name of it. Also they'll show you the extent of the cumulonimbus. Also they show you turbulence and icing. Here's icing. They'll give moderate or severe icing. They indicate that in red scallop line. They give you the symbol for the intensity, and also they'll tell you the altitudes. In this example you can see that it is moderate icing and extends below this chart, which is 10,000 feet, and goes up to 19,000 feet. They use a yellow dash line to indicate turbulence. Sometimes they might even put it in the red scallop if it is also the same as the icing. But they'll give you the intensity of the turbulence and then also the vertical extent, similar to the low-level SIG weather prog. Remember that this chart, the mid-level chart, goes down to 10,000 feet. And then cloud coverage, they'll also tell you cloud coverage. And they'll use the red scallop line, and they'll use these symbols to indicate the type of cloud and also the cloud cover. So in this example you can see that they've got broken overcast, altostratus and altocumulus, and they don't tell you the altitudes of that, but they do tell you that there's turbulence from below the chart level up to 21,000 feet, and that would be moderate turbulence. They also give you volcanic eruptions. They'll give you the name of the volcano and its latitude and longitude. And then also if they have radiation that is being released into the atmosphere, such as a Chernobyl or a Fukushima, they'll give you the symbol. They'll tell you the latitude and longitude and also the date and time of the release. So this chart gives you kind of mid-level significant weather when you're flying, typically across the Atlantic. So you use this chart for flight planning to figure out jet streams, turbulence, icing, and thunderstorms, and also the tropopause. Here's a excerpt of the chart, and this one shows you, of course, North America, and also the North Atlantic, and then into Europe, and parts of Africa too. Notice you can see the jet streams on this going from west to east, and they're pretty strong jet streams. Also, you can see local lows in the tropopause over Greenland. You can see scalloped areas indicating turbulence and icing at mid-levels. And then also there is a volcano on Sicily, and that is Mount Etna. Seems like Mount Etna is always going. And then finally you can see an area of isolated embedded cumulonimbus over Greece and Italy and over the Mediterranean. That's all we've got for the mid-level chart. Hope you enjoyed it.